That's why. Here we go.
Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Man, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast, the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts. I don't know what today is. Take a week off and everything goes to shit.
Apparently you take a day off and everything goes to shit.
Oh my gosh. I'm just
We're on
totally
the struggle bus with all our technical stuff here.
lost in the sauce. We're coming at you from the OKS Hunter podcast studio. If you haven't heard of or don't know the OKS Hunter, you're living under a rock, and you should go check out okshunter.com. If you like what you see, you can buy some merch, W2H podcast, for 10% off. And they just launched a fishing line, the Okayest Fisher. I know it's not hunting, but a lot of hunters hunt. A lot of hunters fish, a lot of fishers hunt.
There you go.
All right. Can I get anything right today, Greg?
You're going to try.
Woof. All right. Check out Backwoods Grind. They make coffee. They just had they released a new flavor, the
Pinotti.
Pinotti. Thank you
There you go.
for not letting me mess that up. Do you know more about that?
Other than it's promoting conservation towards turkeys. That's really about it.
$6.50 a bag goes directly to the National Turkey Federation. See, I'm just off the ball today, guys. Pretty cool. We've been drinking their coffee for 2 or 3 years now.
I've been drinking it longer, but
yeah,
it's good stuff.
I wonder how many bags I've gone through. I bet you they could tell me. I should ask. It's been a lot. We've driven some people there. So if you haven't tried their coffee, you can get like a sampler pack. They have a ton of different blends, including the
Pinotti
blend.
The only thing I have to say. Pinotti.
All right, there you go. And then, be sure to check out Spartan Forge, spartanforge.ai. They are the ones that sponsor our live video call-in. So any guests you see on screen with us, they're the ones that make that happen for us, as well as our call-in number. So, you can call into the show, whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to join via video, you can do that. You can call in. We want to have a two-way conversation with our guests. This is not just our podcast. It's your podcast. It's the podcast for the people, the hunters. So check out spartanforge.ai. You can use code W2H for 20% off. And I recommend getting on there as soon as possible. I've been saying that for a few weeks now because they're making some major updates. And they're going to drop this summer. And when they do, the cost of their app is going to increase for access because it costs a lot of money to do that kind of stuff. I should know because we have the Where to Hunt app. It's not cheap. I will tell you. So go check those guys out. And if you don't know what they are, they're a data-driven model that helps you predict deer movement as well as how a deer is going to navigate and negotiate a piece of terrain. And their new features are coming soon. I won't say a word about that. My lips are sealed. You got to just stay tuned and stay looking. They did put out a new screen chat video thing to showcase kind of the new stuff for a teaser. So check out their Instagram. And I'm not drinking Drop Time today. I do drink it every Tuesday. I'm drinking some scotch that my dad got me that I really like. This is Benrock, the Smoky 12. It is delicious. So been on the bourbon train with Drop Time. Love those guys. I got some bottles in here still that I'll drink up, but just switch it up for a week. It's delicious.
So really what you're trying to tell us is that you drank it all, you're out of it, and
I'm waiting
the next thing.
Right.
See,
what bottle? I'm just trying to hold on to it.
You can't fool a fooler.
Uh-huh. I forget how many bottles come in a case. I think 6.
You crushed all 6.
Well, I didn't. I brought some to deer camp. It wasn't just me.
Yeah, deer camp.
That did a number on it. Anyway, Hey guys, we're chatting and talking. I can't say my words. We're chatting with Beau Martonik today with the East Meets West Hunt podcast. We're gonna bring Beau on, and we're gonna see what he's got going on.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, it's good.
Hey, Beau.
Thanks for joining us today. Sorry for all of our technical hoo-ha.
No, I was just saying this is a pretty cool this restream here to be able to go live with it and everything. It's you're definitely more tech savvy than I am, that's for sure.
Yeah, some days you could say that. Other days, yeah, not. See what goes on behind the scenes here. A lot of swears happen, in tech land over here.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us on the show. We've seen a lot of your stuff for a few years now. I think your podcast launched in 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think tell us about like where you're from. I like the fact that it's East meets West. So I'm curious, are you living in the East and then hunting in the West, or hunting in both? Kind of tell us how you got your start, where you're coming from with all this.
Yeah. So I'm from a small town in north central Pennsylvania, and basically I'd been hunting whitetails, turkeys, bears, everything else in the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania my whole life, and wanted to start hunting out west, and just was kind of overwhelmed with trying to plan it, and kind of thought it was just for people that had a lot of money. I just watched, the Outdoor Channel and stuff at the time, and then as I started discovering people on social media and videos on YouTube and seeing how you can do it yourself, it really was appealing to me. So I just planned my first hunt and made so many mistakes and everything. And there was a bunch of resources. Podcasts were just starting to get big at that time frame. It was like 2016. And I realized that there was a gap, even though there was a lot of really good information on Western hunting, that there was a gap from the new people like myself. And I wanted to learn more about it. So I figured might as well throw Mike on some people that know a lot more than I do and ask the questions that maybe others, from the East and Midwest would have about Western hunting. And then it kind of just transitioned a little bit more than that, and just overall adventure hunting. And because there's so many opportunities also in the East and the South and the Midwest and other areas to be able to go out and plan, long weekend hunts, week-long hunts, things like that. And really, a lot of my focus, where I spend most of my time, is in Pennsylvania and Ohio and these places here throughout the Appalachian region, hunting whitetails in big timber type areas. So that's kind of the gist of where that came from and how I got started with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've been at it since technically 2013, I think. So
You've been at it.
Well, I say we collectively, but like me, and it's never just been me, it's always been like my wife or whatever, she supports me. But the game has changed a lot since 2013. The entry point to get into podcasting is, you can go down on Anchor and you can do it from your phone tonight if you wanted to. It's totally different. You're right about it picking up right about in 2016, 2017.
Yep.
It's crazy. We're really curious about Western hunts. I've not done one. We were planning one up until, my wife and I got pregnant. We're expecting our third kid in September. So that got botched. That's the reason. So cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows. I've been really waiting to tell everyone, like, why aren't you doing your elk hunt? Well, yeah, I can't leave my wife with a newborn baby and two other kids that are, all 2 years apart. So
He's an excellent planner.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I obviously, we met through Bill Thompson with Spartan Forge. And, I'm curious, as a Western hunter, if you're using that app or out east, we're in the Midwest here in Wisconsin. So, Greg and I have been tinkering with it and using it. There's a lot of great features on there, like the historical wind data, I think is fantastic. Obviously, like the predictability when they're going to be on hoof, the average deer, that's fantastic. I was able to look at that, and I told my wife I'm going hunting right now at 3:00 in the afternoon. I left my clocked out of the day job and went and I killed a buck. Now I wouldn't say that's exclusive because of his app, but that certainly played a part. I was like, look, this is it. This is the day. So how are you? Are you using it out there? I would imagine as well.
Yeah, and it's funny the way you said that about you leaving and to go hunt and you killed a buck and stuff. I feel like a lot of it is a lot of hunting in general is a mental game, and having that confidence, and if just being able to have something that helps give you that confidence to go out when the conditions are right or when it's predicting movement. I mean, that just puts you in a different mindset in the game. And for me, I started using it like the end of November, kind of the beginning of December, and just playing around with it and mostly comparing it up against my trail camera data because it was kind of towards the end of my hunting season. And I was very skeptical, and I told Bill this, and I almost didn't want to try it because I was kind of pretty skeptical about it. And so far I've been very, very impressed with it. And so you kind of alluded to some of the things that are going to be coming from them, and it's really mind blowing. It's pretty game changing type stuff. So and I don't say that much about technology when it comes to hunting, although we all use it quite a bit. This is something that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And if anyone that ever gets to know Bill, you'll know why it's going to be successful, because
Oh, yeah.
he's going to make it successful. That's just how he is.
Yeah, he's so intelligent. He's extremely intelligent and very driven too. He's very results driven. He's very data driven, and yeah, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to make this 100 times better as it keeps developing.
Yeah, totally agree. So you got to hunt with one of our friends, Johnny Stewart, this past season out in Pennsylvania. Where I'm not like jealous, but I'm a little jealous. Like, yeah. I'm so excited to meet some of these guys, and we've had Greg Litzinger on like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. He's the salt of the earth, super humble guy. Always
both of them
help.
guys. Johnny
right.
too. Like, I've got an open invitation twice now from Johnny. Dude, come on out. Let's hunt. Let's go. And
yeah,
I'm not nowhere near the level he is as far as I'm concerned when it comes to killing big deer. But for him to reach out and be that kind of person, I think Greg Litzinger's that way too. He's awesome. I really enjoy the content those guys put out, and what you put out too. It's fun watching you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And Johnny is the most selfless person that you could ever meet. Literally, he cares more about helping someone else than himself. And I feel like that's something that people might say. He shows it. Like it's very apparent. And I've known Johnny now for 5 years or so. I remember he followed me on Instagram well before I had the podcast and everything. And I looked at his profile, and he just had these pictures of his old Jeep with just sheds laying all across the hood. And I'm like, man, and he said something about big wood stuff. I'm like, that's pretty incredible. And we started chatting back and forth on Messenger, and then found out he was in the same area that I live in. And we met up one day in the woods. He was checking cameras and told me where he was at, and I went and met up with him. And since then, he's been coming to my family's camp every year during the fall, hangs out, become good friends with all my family members, and just always around. And now I've been lucky to hunt with him a bunch of times. And he's so intelligent and just thinks of things from a completely different perspective than anyone I've ever met. And you could, when he talks, I mean, I just wish I could just take in everything that he's saying, because it's very, very good.
Definitely a true conservationist. I mean, people think conservationist, they think someone there to save the species or, do good things for the habitat. And I'm sure he does all that, but he's also doing a good job of trying to help people learn. And he's not afraid to sacrifice, his time in the woods to help people. And that's not something that happens very often.
No, he's taught me a lot with that, because I mean, I think just about any of us as hunters can be extremely selfish at times, and want to keep things to ourselves and everything. And he's just, like I said, the complete opposite of that. And it was funny, this past year, I guess it's his fiance now, it said to him, he was, he had like 3 people hunt with him and all kill bucks, and he hadn't killed anything yet. And she's like, when are you going to bring something home? He's like, I'm not done yet. I just want to keep hunting.
That's a lot of it too. I mean, I could have shot bucks early on, but they weren't what I wanted to shoot. And, part of it's great to be tagged out, but it's also fun to hang in there to the very end. I mean, I try to do that every year, even if I got doe tags to fill. I'll hunt the last day of our archery season, freezing my butt off in January. I don't care. I just like being out there. You don't want to see it end too fast.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's points like throughout the season as it gets longer and you're struggling or whatever it might be. I feel like I always have some good opportunities early that I choose to pass on, and then all of a sudden I hit a dry spell and I'm like, did I make a mistake oh no, you start questioning yourself, and it always pans out the way it's supposed to, I guess, from that standpoint. And when you hunt the whole season, you learn so much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that 8 I missed on that public property you had me on. I thought that was my only opportunity, and I just whiffed it. But I was so confident that I was so perplexed.
And we picked up and went to another property because we knew that spot was spent, and I put you in another couple of areas where I thought deer were moving, and you had eyes on bucks, and you had another pretty close call, and it didn't happen, but you persevered and you took it upon yourself to go put yourself out there in another spot all by yourself, and you figured it out
and got it done. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, whatever. Everyone's heard this effing story too many damn times because it's the only one I got basically at this point. But I was just so in disbelief. I'm sitting over a dead deer looking at it and going, is it really dead? Did this actually happen? Is that really a buck? And my wife was super thrilled because she's like, does that mean you're done now? I'm like, yes, I'll be done now. Yeah, gun season. And I shot a doe with my guns. That was, oh man, I love bow hunting. It's a very intimate, romantic kind of hunt. But gun, there's something about sniping a freaking deer, man. It's a whole different ball game, and I love the camaraderie that you get there. It's totally different than the ninja kind of approach you take with a bow.
It is. It's so I had, for the most part, I bow hunted only for the last, like, I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 years in a row. I never even picked up a rifle. And then the last couple of years, I didn't fill my bow tag and was going into rifle season. And I always looked at it as a negative thing, but just because of the amount of people that were in the woods. But I came to love it again because I got to change up some things. I hunted differently. During rifle season, I didn't hunt from a tree stand at all. I just hunted off the ground, did some still hunting, some different things that it brought out a whole different type of fun. And then just the camp aspect and being around a bunch of people and telling stories and hanging out. I mean, that's my favorite part when it comes to gun hunting. I've really come to enjoy the different seasons more so than before, where I felt like, I like bow hunting and liked hunting the rut and things like that. And it's definitely changed my perspective a little bit.
It's one of those things where I say, maybe others say this too, but I always say the same group of guys, and we tack on 1 or 2 different people that, kind of interchange throughout the years. We've been at it for 10 years now as a solid group. I've been doing it longer with my dad, but we've kind of built onto this group, and the woods come to life when we show up there. Like, we get there and we're in the woods. We're trekking the same damn stuff every year. Nothing's changed. It's public land, but we're like, remember when the buck came here? Remember when I had to hit the deck because you had to shoot the 2 bucks chasing the doe? Like, and suddenly everything just starts to come to life. Like, you can actually picture these holograms of these ghosts in the woods from years past, and these stories light up. And then we get and play cards, and we drink the whatever drop time this year, and whatever swill that's laying around there, probably bush lattes, and it's just a different experience. And now that I'm a dad of going to be 3 kids and 2 kids, or currently, I don't have a lot of time with these guys. So come deer camp, it's like a reunion. It's totally, it's just such a great experience, one that I've come to cherish so much. As I'm like, I'm not old, but I'm getting older. It's a good, I don't know, just like that's and by the way, did you see, you guys? I don't know if you follow the Whitetail Legacy podcast.
I do.
They just released like a new kind of brand flavor, 100% gun or whatever. 100%. What is it?
Gun hunter or something like
that. Yeah. They got like a new thing. So Cody Jenkins, High Fence Cody, is his nickname. He loves gun hunting, and he's like, gun hunting's getting like a bad rap. It shouldn't be. Let's like do something about it. So he put out a new thing. I think it's really cool.
Plenty of guys miss tons of deer every year with guns. They could have the best rifle, the best ammunition, and still not hit a damn thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, I did it this year. I missed a buck before I shot mine. Not the same day, but about a week earlier at about 60 yards. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if I hit a branch or I just completely missed or what. It's not a for sure thing.
No, it never is.
No, it definitely isn't.
I bumped my target buck that I'm very much obsessed with, It's definitely going to be the biggest deer I ever kill. If
You got
I
a name?
ever,
You got a name for him?
no, I don't name him.
Come on.
No, I don't. On
On the
him.
spot, what would you call him?
Deer.
The Big 10.
The big, yeah, big 10, the big 14, the big 21, whatever he is. He's meat, man. But, I watched him. I heard him get up. I watched him blast through all this tag alder and cattail. And I had my rifle which 30 caliber rifle should be able to bust through stuff, but I couldn't see him through the scope. He was moving so quick. But if I had my 12 gauge, I could have probably thrown through 2 slugs at him at least and had a chance. So I thought, well, I'm going to walk the open edge of this. If I bump something out, it might come running out in the open. Well, it didn't. He went right for the thick stuff, and I should have known better. But, is what it is. I got to put eyes on him. I got a lot of camera
So it's like the
footage of
M&M
him.
commercial. He does exist.
Oh, yeah. I got to see him in person and really, truly appreciate how big he was.
So
Yeah.
Bo, you got to hunt with Johnny. You talked to him being selfless, and I think we know that to be true. He's just a cool dude. But you got a monster buck, and the footage that comes to mind, that's acutely soldered in my brain is you dragging that thing through the river. Tell us what happened, man. Like how did that all kind of transpire?
Yeah, so we were up at my grandfather's camp, and there was my dad and my uncles and Johnny, myself. We were sitting there having a few beers and talking about our game plan, and everybody at camp was tagged out at that point except for me and Johnny. And we were like, all right, what's your plan? And we were going back and forth, and I was going to one of my spots, he was going one of his, and he's like, why don't we just hunt together and have fun with it and see what happens? He's like, I got a spot we can go, and I'm like, why not? Like, let's try something different. And my dad's like, yeah, I'll go along with you too, and help and see if I can if you need me to do a little bump drive or something else to be able to help out. I'm like, all right, that'd be cool. Let's do it. And so next day we just went out and we started going to this spot. This one spot Johnny was hunting is pretty big country, big steep hills, and my dad we were setting up, and there was a bunch of hunters putting on drives on the tops of the hills, and so we went off the side on the steep side hills, and there wasn't anybody down there. And we're figuring if they bumped any deer off the top, they'd be down there, and just seemed to live on those side hills in general. So my dad came around and he did this little drive, and it didn't. We didn't see a deer. We didn't see a single deer. And he's like, I can't cover this entire hillside. It was pretty tough. And we were thinking about it, like maybe we should, split up and do something different and still hunt or whatever. And Johnny's like, let's go. I got one other spot on this other ridge. We could see it across the valley, but we ended up going up and driving and coming around because we figured that the bucks might have been bedded out on this point based off of previous knowledge that Johnny had. And we went to set up, and Johnny set up right at the top edge where it crested over, it got kind of steep. And I went down off out of sight and was down on the lower third of the hill. And I set up right on the edge of this thick, like a group of hemlock trees that were out on this point. And my dad started like a mile and a half away. I mean, way further away than if he were to kick anything up, it wasn't coming our direction until he got closer. And he was just quietly walking through. It wasn't like, screaming or doing anything like that. It was just more of kind of like a wind bump type drive. And he came around, and I was sitting there, I was looking, and I was only 20 yards from these hemlocks. I'm like, I might be too close. I should have got where I could see a little bit better. And I caught a flash of just a little piece of a beam that was coming out. Or at the time, I didn't know that's what it was, but I saw that, and I was like, it looks like an antler. And I pull up my gun, and all of a sudden, this absolute monarch of a deer steps out at 20 yards, fills up my whole scope. And I about dropped the gun right there, and he was basically facing straight on, hard quartering two, and I put it right on his chest and shot, and he mule kicked up, and before he had a chance to fall, I put another one in him, and he died right there. It was like I said, when I saw him come out, knew he was huge, and then I walked up to him, and I about passed out, and I called Johnny because he was up, like I said, above me a little bit, and I said, I just shot this giant deer, and he's like, is it the big 9? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And he's like, I haven't seen him on camera in 2 months, and he had cameras all over, like right in that area, and that deer had disappeared, but he was living there the whole time. Well, at least he was that day, and he was so excited. I mean, like, this is a deer, which I should be getting results back on the teeth here shortly, but the taxidermist figured he was between 9 and 10.
What?
Yeah. So it was super old deer.
crap.
Then the first time, actually, there's a little backstory on that. The first time Johnny got photos of this deer was in 2017. He had just started hunting this area, and he actually forgot that he left a camera up. So it was spring of 2018. He was scouting, and he found his camera that he left, and he didn't have a way to check the card, and he was coming to my house anyway, so he plugged it in the computer, and this deer was on there. And I was like, wow, that's a really good deer. And he was moving in late season out around that point. And there were some oaks also, like right where I was sitting was in some big oaks and right on the edge of that thick stuff. And he, so there was like a whole backstory on that specific deer. And it was funny because he looked at it the first time at my house, and that was so cool. And so that's where part of the story ends, but where another one begins. So the deer's down, and we're celebrating and so excited. And I was like, all right, I'm going to cut them up, and we'll pack them out, because we were ways down off this hill, and it would be a terrible drag up and then probably a mile across the top to get back to the truck. And he's like, no, we got to get the whole thing back to camp. You don't want to cut it up. We got to hang it at the meat pole and show everybody. And I'm like, I was like, John, I don't want to drag this thing up there. It'd be so much easier to cut it up. He's like, we can go down and we can cross the river. And I'm like, when I was in here with you and Greg in the fall, I came in to help. Greg had shot a deer, and I came to help him. And I was like, I had to use hip waders. Like, it was pretty deep. He's like, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I'm like, all right.
We'll be fine. He's like, he already knows what's going to happen. And you're like,
so him and he had no idea. That was the thing. He just blindly said, let's do this. And him and my dad went and got the truck, and I drug it all the way down off the mountain and down to the creek. And I say creek, there's a river. And we get down there, and I'm like,
was it like a sandy bottom river, or like stone or muck? Like, what was it?
It was muck on the sides and stone in the center of it. But I was really lucky, because I get up to it, and this thing's like I don't know, at least 70, 80 yards wide. At the point where we were at there, I'm like, and I had a pair of like over boots. They're like, I can't remember the brand, but they're like Wiggies. They're almost like a garbage bag goes over top your boots. And I had them in my truck, and I said, Johnny, you throw those on, I'll just go across. And he's like, okay. Well, they ended up leaking on them anyways, which is kind of funny. But so I tied the deer to my belt loop with paracord.
That's smart. Go swim after it.
The river was flowing pretty good, and I was like, if I lose this deer, I'm going with it. Like that's all that goes on. So I tied it up, and I gave Johnny all my gear and started going across, and it just started getting deeper and deeper, and it was up. At one point, it was at my waist as I was going across, and it was like pulling me down. it was and
just like a pep talk. Like, all right. This is fucking cold.
It was below freezing. And so I was just like, it takes your breath away, especially when it hits, the bottom end of your crotch there. And as it comes up, I was struggling a little bit, but needed help getting up over the bank because my legs just didn't want to work. They were so cold. And we got it up and then drug it up to the road there. And it's funny because don't want anybody to really see where you're at, so took my truck and I can't remember. I pulled my truck in real fast. We hurried up and threw it up over the guardrail, and picked it up and ran basically with it, and threw it in the back of my truck. Hurried up, closed it, jumped in, and took off. So no one would see us coming down the road there. But
fire drill. Yeah,
it was pretty funny. And then, then I went home and showered and changed, and we went back to camp that night. And there was a ton of people that showed up, and just we all had a very, very good night. Let's put it that way. The next day when I was skinning it, wasn't feeling too hot.
Oh man, I bet.
Had to celebrate.
Dude, that's awesome. The whole like get it in the truck without anyone seeing. When I got my deer this past season, my buddy Joel was with me, and he's like, and we can't see where we're going. We're on this property we've never been on before, and we ended up getting into like some small like pond kind of. We're walking into that. We're like, dude, this isn't gonna work. We got to turn our headlamps on. He's like, no, we're not turning our headlamps on. We don't want anyone to know we're here. It's like, oh yeah, good point. So we did it in like pitch black. We didn't know where the hell we were going.
Yep, exactly. And you always gotta park on the opposite side of the road. I'm actually giving too much information here, but you gotta park on the opposite side of the road than where you're going, so people think you're on the other side. I made the mistake of my truck is extremely, extremely recognizable, and that's screwed me more than once. I need to get a secondary vehicle that's like, I don't know, a Subaru Outback, and I'll put some like Patagonia stickers on it and stickers. I don't know.
That away.
Yeah, Greg's got a Subaru.
You shut up.
Yeah, I got stickers on my back window. But the funny thing about us is like we got the okayest hunter sticker on there, so they know if they see our vehicle, we ain't shooting shit.
Well, there's a reason I'm not taking the pickup truck to my destination this weekend, so I'm gonna make sure I have like Autobahn Society stickers all over it.
There you go.
Wait, what's the make and model, color of your vehicle, license plate number?
Red, and it says, I brake for raccoons.
I brake for a bird the other day. I was like, what are you doing? It's like, she's like, it's a bird. I almost hit it. It's like, no one cares about the bird. It's funny if you hit them. They hit the windshield and they go bonk and then that's it. It's like, no, it's fine.
That's funny.
Oh, threw me through the windshield trying to brake for a bird. A dove, nonetheless. I think it was.
Morning dove.
I tell you.
Hey, they're tasty, though.
So that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
What did you shoot it with? What gun were you using and scope?
I was using a Bergera 300 Win Mag and then a Maven RS2 scope on there. So it was a pretty deadly combination there, and probably a little bit overgunned for whitetails, but
I don't know. I shoot a 300 Win also only because it's my first rifle. You know, I go into a long story of why, but short term of it is Dad and I were supposed to go elk hunting out west. It never happened. It's the only rifle I own.
It hasn't happened
right.
Yet.
Well, and I want to.
Sorry for delaying it, but
anyway, 300 Win Mag, shoot 180 grain bullet. You can eat right up to the hole. It doesn't destroy as much meat as a 150 grain 30-06 bullet.
That's so true too.
It really is true.
Yep.
Yeah, I blasted the doe that I got this past gun season, my 30-06, which I have a Remington 700. I shoot a Nikon Monarch scope on there. My buddy shoots a Vortex, which is actually really nice.
Yeah, I got a Vortex on my 300 Win.
But I got the Monarch because someone had said, who was more experienced than me at the time when I bought this thing. I was still a stupid young kid, and he's like, "Well, if you ever want to go out west, get this scope so you can get more out of the gun." And I was like, "Well, that is part of my plan." So hopefully it serves me well at that point. But I blasted the rib cage. There was bone chart everywhere. Like there's just bone shrapnel all over the place. It was like grainy. You could feel it as you're gutting it. I was like, "Geez."
Yeah.
Yeah, the 300 Win Mag, people go, "Oh, it's overgunned." You use the right bullet, and honestly, that's a gun that can do just about everything.
Yep.
A little more ass behind it than a 06. Nothing wrong with 06.
Oh,
I've
sure.
shot plenty through with it, and I love that gun.
Yep.
But the 300 Win Mag, if you're going to pick a one for all, that's really not a bad gun. There's a one for all.
And what action is yours?
What's that?
What action is it?
That's just bolt action.
Bolt gun.
God, I love bolt action.
Yeah,
it's something about it, man. You feel like a fucking sniper. It's awesome.
Yeah, my brother's actually a gunsmith, and he's a big gun guy, and I'm more of a bow guy, and like so I rely on him for all information when it comes to. I said, hey, if I were to pick one caliber that I could go out west, I can go to Alaska, I can go any type of hunting basically. What is a good all around caliber? And he's like, 300 Win Mag. He's like, and it's
load it up.
Caliber. You can get it anywhere. You know, well, maybe not right now, but normally you can get it anywhere.
You can go to a gas station out west and find 300 Win Mag cartridges.
Yeah. And they thought Obama was a good gun salesman. Look what Biden did. Oh, let's not
It
go
wasn't
down that
Biden.
road.
It was the pandemic.
That's
dude.
right. That's right. Anyway,
And everybody freaking out.
just yeah, I've been seeing like all the memes of like food dispensers, but there's bullets in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but how many people that are quote unquote ammo salesmen on Instagram have been hitting you up to follow you and want you to follow them back?
Oh yeah, that knife people.
Tons.
All
Yeah,
these
all the
knives.
time.
You
All
get
the time.
that the knife people like where? I don't know.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell you're making that shit from. It's probably garbage. Get out of here with your knife.
There's a lot of knife manufacturers now.
So many knife manufacturers.
Knife and under the table ammo guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Instagram, all that stuff. So yeah, by the way, like where can everyone, like, we're not getting to that point just yet. We still got time in front of us, but I'm just curious, like where are you putting most of your efforts for like exposing like what you're doing, all the efforts that you're doing, all the content that you have? Are you Instagram, Facebook, TikTok? Where are you finding you're putting stuff?
Well, first I tried TikTok and they kept taking down all my videos, so I kind of gave up on that. But mostly Instagram. I use that and Facebook, but I'm more interactive on Instagram and everything. I don't really check my Facebook messages that much. Just Instagram just is so much easier to use. I like the platform better, so I use it there. I have both my personal page, which is just at Beau.Martonik, and then my business page, which is all the podcast stuff and video stuff that goes up at East Meets West Hunt. So I have both of those, and then I put all my video content on YouTube, which is just under my name, Beau Martonik, and then the podcast is really anywhere that you can find that.
That's awesome. You know, a buddy of ours, Brad Luttrell, he runs Go Wild. That's been a pretty cool platform where you're not going to get jettisoned off of there for posting something. It's really all outdoorsmen and women are free to post whatever they want to some within limits. But you're not going to get cut off for posting a picture of a deer or something like that, like you would, or shooting a bow. Like on TikTok, you can't even shoot your bow at a freaking target.
3D target, yeah.
Yeah, like, come on, guys, this is ridiculous. It's a fucking piece of foam. I can shoot my bow at this without it getting taken down. But no, but it's okay for girls to dance with their nipples basically showing. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that, but I just want to be able to put my hunting stuff up too. And I do use Go Wild too. Actually, I'd met Brad a few years ago, and I think that platform's really cool and nice to. My brother, and he had his gunsmithing page and on Instagram, and he got really fed up with just social media in general, and was like, I'm gonna delete all this stuff. And his page is doing really well, and I was like, it's like you got to find a way to still utilize it and help your business and everything. And I told him about Go Wild, and he's been using that and seeming to really like it. And they even have
a community over there. You get like-minded folks that are like really rooting for you over there. It's a cool space.
Yeah, it is. I haven't had any negative interactions on there at all.
Not at all.
My only gripe is that it feels like I'm punching a time card for work, logging activities. But other than that, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
good punch a time clock that way.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. And if Brad wrote me a check, that would be fantastic. Brad, if you're listening, I'm just kidding. No, it's good stuff. And so what's on the doc? I mean, as far as what you can tell us, I'm sure that maybe you're working on some things that are, maybe below the radar or what have you, because you've done some pretty cool stuff. You've done some work with Sitka. We were talking before we hit the record button. You're working with Jim Hole a little bit. I think, my God, I watched that video. That guy would rip me to shreds as the okayest hunter. I'm just saying, like we got content for days that I could send that guy and it would probably make a spine itch.
Oh yeah, no, me too. But like I just went into it. I'm thinking the way my scent control regimen and everything else is not even close to what this guy is. Like he'd make us every morning. We had to go out. All of our clothes hung outside, and it got down to -20 at times. And I mean, everything, your socks, everything except for your underwear were outside, and go out there in the morning. Oh, it was terrible to throw that on and get up in there and, be super quiet and everything. And he actually gave us a test of climbing up a tree and hanging a lone wolf stand and you couldn't make a single noise, and you had to do it. I don't know, it was like 3 times before he'd even let us hunt. And he's standing there critiquing, using too much energy. You're doing this. You're gonna sweat. You're gonna, But what that it taught me so much. Now, am I at a point right now where I'm hanging my underwear outside and walking out in the cold? No. But I've learned so much about silencing things and other stuff that you can really pull from it. He's taught me so much about being able to how to just get really close to deer and set up in places that you're really utilizing bow hunting to its finest. Yeah, I may be able to shoot 60 yards, 70 yards in the yard, but being able to get to that 15-yard mark on a deer and stuff is just, I've learned so much about that stuff from him. So there was a lot of really good takeaways from that hunt specifically.
That's pretty cool. I think that's awesome. I mean, I've learned a bit from Greg, honestly, about stuff and other people. I've hunted with a couple of different folks throughout the last couple of years. The podcast has got me, to be able to hunt with some other people, and they're like, "Oh, dude, nope." I'm like, "Come on, guys, like this is fine. It's not that big of a deal." I'm like, "No, I'm getting beat up about it a little bit." My poor dad, he gave me this old tree stand, and
here we go.
I think it's fine, and it's not fine.
No, it's not. No, that should be hung on the wall and let collect dust.
Artifact. I should put it behind a hook.
That's all you should do with it.
That's funny.
The one thing I learned about hunting with Jim, and I knew this kind of going in, I was prepped for it. And it's like, take anything that or if you have any sort of ego going into it and what you think, just completely cancel it out and go in there with an open mind and just listen, take it all in, and I did that when I went in there, and I'm thankful that I did. I wasn't trying to think, that's not how I would do it. Well, obviously this guy kills some giant whitetails and knows a thing from his year two. So I'm going to take as much of it in as I can and just enjoy the experience. So it was so cool. That place, you could, when you're in a tree stand and it's so far north, it's up in the bow zone of Alberta, that you could hear a crow's wings flapping at 150 yards across a field, or a coyote would run at 300 yards and you could hear every footstep like it was right below your tree. That's another reason why silence is so important there, but it was incredible.
Fantastic. That reminds me of the Boundary Water Canoe area, which is the border of Minnesota, northern Minnesota and Canada. We went fishing up there, and I've never experienced such a silent place in my life, let alone beautiful. So I can relate to that a little bit. That and the Nicolet National Forest here in Wisconsin, you get far enough up there, and if it snowed, it's desolate. You don't hear anything, man. There's nothing. And you don't hear the deer either, for that matter. Like, I've had deer underneath my stand. I'm like, where did you come from?
Mm-hmm.
Just ghosts. It's crazy. So I can imagine, yeah, they're hearing anything you're doing. You make one, like you hear some other hunter do, clearing their throat or something, or that one nose whiffle because you're just dripping snot everywhere. We should talk about snot control. What the hell are people doing with that? You got to get like a special freaking like handkerchief over your sleeve so you just wipe it off, so you don't get your freaking clothes full of snot, because you do. Sometimes you're what are you blowing? Are you blowing at you dough? What are you doing?
Let's have a conversation after this. Let's figure out how to come up with a product and the hunter's handkerchief, and we'll make it work.
I mean, that should really be like, come on, guys, I'm not wrong here.
No,
you just want to suck in that snot. You just want to do it. And then you wipe it on your sleeve anyways, your glove or whatever you got, and then your glove's soaked with snot.
Yep.
I'm not talking about from experience or anything, right?
Just seeing other people and stuff.
Yeah. My wife only knew, like, oh yeah, these clothes are so clean. They smell like nature.
Yeah, don't sniff the sleeve.
Well,
and if you sniff it too close, you might scratch your face from all that snot that hardened up.
Exactly. When Greg got me into merino wool, I dropped a pretty penny on merino wool last year. That stuff doesn't hold a scent at all.
No, that stuff's crazy.
It's impressive, and it's wicking, and it was $100 for one bottom, $100 for one top. The stuff I got, it was top of the shelf shit, and I think I can't remember what the company's called. It wasn't a traditional company. I went to Sherpers, which is a Wisconsin company here, and they had, I think it's called like 30 Below or 40 Below is the company.
I don't know.
But it's like what mountain climbers use, so it was like a couple echelons above just even deer hunting. I was like, okay, if this is the best stuff, I'll buy this. and there's other brands that cater to deer hunters, but I think it's a bit of a marketing kind of thing, right? To some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you what, just using performance clothes in general is so nice. Being comfortable. My dad was like one of he's the best hunter I know, and he used Army BDU pants, that heavy cotton type stuff, and whatever cotton thermals and everything else, and just would layer up. And I got him to use some Sitka gear. I gave him some stuff, and first he's like, I don't really need this. And then next thing you know, he's like, hey, I was looking at this on their website. What do you think? and now he's all decked out, and he's like, this is awesome. It's really cool to, it's just nice to be comfortable in it. And the way I justified it when I started buying, high quality clothing back in 2013, and it was like, I just bought it piece at a time because it is expensive. So it takes a while to build your system out, and man, it's just it's something that definitely changed it for me. I spend so much time hunting, and I want to enjoy it the best that I can.
I think you said it right. You said system, and we were talking with
system.
We were talking with Lone Wolf 3 or 4 weeks ago with Andre, and we were talking about the fact that their stand and their sticks, it's a system. It's not just you go buy sticks or you go buy a stand and it's the best one. It's like it all works together.
Yeah, your clothing, your stand and sticks, your rifle and your ammo, your scope, whatever it is, everything's a system.
Even how you pack that stuff, like where do you keep your? How do you tack on your arrows? Like the whole thing should be a system. There's a little bit you can I can't say this damn word, compartmentalize different things, but as a whole, it should all work together. And Greg, I know you are the most humble damn human being I've ever damn met, but like you have a great system. Like I drove to Greg's house, I don't know, countless times last season. Get ready in his garage, we get in the truck, but like sometimes you wouldn't. But like you knew what you were doing. You had your clothes, your gear, you had the tote, you had the stuff. Like it was all a system. Everything was packed a certain way because you'd spend the off season tinkering with these things and like refining and updating.
Well, and every year is
very
different
impressive.
too. I mean, I try to get better and more efficient every year, and some years it does me good, and some years it doesn't make a difference. I still suck. So,
well, and what I've learned about like building these systems, like in general, as far as gear is and being able to work more efficiently, is that you reduce stress. So like when you're doing something and something goes wrong, or like say you can't find something in your pocket, or you're climbing a tree and you're fumbling with stuff, and you start sweating, and then you start getting worked up, and that can kind of deter the experience a little bit, or maybe you get colder because you were sweating so bad. So being able to practice with that, now I have everything in my pack. Sounds like similar to you, Greg. Like I know where everything's at. I can get to it at any time when I need it. I have, say, my gloves and my hat and my beanie in my left pocket. I have in my saddle, I'll have my lineman's rope in this pocket, and it's in order as I take it out. Is how I hang it on the tree. I roll it up nicely when I put it back in the opposite order. Everything's dialed, so when I'm doing things in the dark, I can do it literally with my eyes closed. So that
you turn to a creature of habit, and that's what you need to do. You need to be.
You're hunting a creature of habit, right?
Right. So you need to kind of be mindful of that, and the smoother you are, the quieter you're going to be, and the less stressed out and the less sweated up you're going to be. And when you're all said and done, you're up there, you're not stressing so much. You're hanging in the tree and you're waiting for something to happen.
And the military says slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So like
there you go.
Which really just means you're going to be more efficient. If you just slow down, take your time, don't panic, like keep your shit together, and you'll be able to methodically work your way through something. But that practice and that system is great. When I missed that deer last year, I climbed my backyard trees a handful of times and started shooting my bow because I was like, what the hell did I do wrong? Did I not bend at the hips the right way?
We know what he did wrong. We could talk about that later.
We don't know what I did wrong.
Oh, I know a lot of what you did wrong.
Son of a bitch. I haven't said anything about this. I know I shot over
stand placement. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
But it was man, I was like, what? I thought I hit it maybe, and it ran off, and then I was like, what the fuck happened? There's no blood, no hair, nothing. Anyway, I still those are the ones you miss. You think about quite a bit, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They hunt you.
I had a hunt this year before it was an archery season. I was sitting in a stand. It was October 30th, and things just didn't feel right. I had checked cameras scouting the day before, and the scrapes weren't lit up like they normally would be at that time of year. And just things, I'm like, wonder if, they're moving a little earlier into like checking doe bedding areas and stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to move. And I just had this thing about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I climbed down, packed up my stuff, and just started still hunting up towards, I didn't know exactly where I was going to set up. I knew where some does would bed, and I was going to try to find a good spot close to it. I get right up to the top, and as I move, when I'm walking on the ground, I'll do some blind calling, and I did a grunt and a bleat sequence, and I really don't think this had any effect to it. This is just what I did, but all of a sudden I heard this crashing, and this doe came sprinting out of the woods with this 4-point behind her, and she almost ran me over. But I could hear more, like, so I could tell there was probably more bucks coming. So I went right to full draw, and the buck I was hunting, which was actually bigger than the one I shot, came out, and I stopped him at 15 yards with a mouth grunt. And I'm sitting there. He's kind of in some brush, so I had to lean. I get down on one knee, and I was using that Garmin Zero bow sight, and I couldn't pick up the range with the brush.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the bow sight's smarter than I am, and it was no fault of the bow sights, but all I had to do is double tap the button on the front, and it pulls up your fixed pins. And it was so close, like, I probably didn't even need pins. I could have just, I'd know kind of where they pop up, and I didn't shoot in that 2 seconds that he stopped, and he was chased after the doe again, and I lost my opportunity. And I just wanted to just throw my bow, at the time I threw a little hissy fit to myself, like, this is it. This is everything I worked for. This was the deer I was trying to hunt, and I was in there for, and I just screwed it up. And I think about that all the time. I could go back and tell you 10 different things I could have did differently that it would have resulted better, but it's part of the learning.
That's a good way to think of it, though, because, here I am still talking with what I missed, and it's because I was still trying to understand. It took me a while to figure out what the hell I did wrong. Initially, I thought I didn't range it right. So by the way, up until this last season, I didn't have a rangefinder. So guess what I did the very next effing day? I went and bought a rangefinder. So then I went back in that tree, I ranged, and I was like, no, this was like spot on. So it was an error that I did. I goofed something up. I had the right range. I thought maybe I didn't. But then you analyze, and that's how you learn. That's how you get better. If you don't make these mistakes and analyze them, you're doomed to just keep repeating shit and not having success.
And the biggest thing for me that took me a while to learn was how to get your head out of your ass after that happens and keep going. Like, I wanted to go home, and I'm like, no, I took off work for this. Like, these are my vacation days that are precious to be able to do this. I'm like, no, go find a tree and climb up there. Just whatever. Maybe it's not in the best spot, but you got to stay with it. And then the next day I had to go. I'm like, well, maybe, he's chasing his doe around here. Maybe he's going to kind of, bed her up and get locked down with her for a few days in this area, get in there and hunt. And I didn't see him again, but I did it. You just got to keep moving on, and it takes
the wind out of your sails because you try so effing hard.
When you work, you work,
and you get the opportunity. You're like, oh, you know how hard earned it was to get that opportunity. And you F it up. You're like, shit, I'm not going to get another one of these.
Yeah,
that's how I felt.
Yeah, and it is. It's so, and I can't say that I would have made that. Like, I would have been able to recover that fast even a few years ago. I mean, every year I feel like I get a little bit better with it. Just trying to learn from those mistakes. And what I've learned from doing my podcast and talking to people is even the best hunters make a lot of mistakes. But what they do differently than the people that aren't as successful is they recover from it. And that's, it's staying in the game,
Totally. So, okay, let's, I want to hear your most memorable hunt. And I'm curious to hear, because you've had some, like, you talk about the adventure side of things, and I think crossing a river with dragging that buck out and tying it to yourself, like getting into cold water and getting up to your waist deep. I love the adventure more than the hunt. We talked to Aaron Snyder, a month or two ago or something, and you talk about adventure hunting. That guy's like the creme de la creme. And I am obsessed with the adventure, the like offbeat trail, like blazing trails. That stuff to me is indelible. I prefer that because that's where memories are made. You're never going to forget getting in that river ever.
No.
Like ever. But if you took like some easy drag or whatever, like maybe less memorable, right? Just in contrast to that. So anytime you can up the ante in that sense, I'm all for that stuff. Greg's like, oh, you're going to follow me into this tamarack swamp? I'm like, yeah, dude, it's going to be way more fucking memorable. Like, that's what I want. By the way, I care less about the deer as I do for the adventure. So like the time I can fall up to my ass and muck, that's what I'm after, by the way. So, because that's funny, like I've gotten literally stuck in the mud before, and like that wasn't the problem. The problem was I was going to bust my gut from laughing so hard because it was such a ridiculous situation. So whatever that's worth, man, I'm excited to hear your most memorable hunt.
All right. So first, I want to say one thing about getting stuck in mud. So I had a hunt. It was 2 years ago. I was coming out in the dark and it was pouring down rain, and I was just walking my headlamp, and there's a bunch of old gas wells in that area. And I don't know if that's prevalent where you guys are at, but in Pennsylvania, there's a ton of old gas wells, and around these old gas wells, they didn't used to take care of them the way they do now. So there's like, old pipes, and it's kind of mushy and, mucky around there. Well, I didn't see it because it was raining so hard and my headlamp wasn't working great. And I stepped down and I stepped into this, what looked like, even afterwards, the next day I went back and it looked like solid ground because it was all covered in leaves. And I instantly sunk right up to my armpits in this muck. And I threw my bow out, and I really think the only reason I kept kind of afloat sort of deal was my backpack was so big and it was kind of holding me up. And every time I moved, I kept going deeper, and I got up to right about my neck, and I was like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm just going to sink in this muck and no one's ever going to find me. So I just breathed a few times and settled down. I reached behind me, and there was a branch that was coming out from a tree on the bank. So I was obviously right next to the bank, and I was able to grab it. And it took me probably 5 or 10 minutes before I was able to pull myself out. And I was just soaked. And then I had to figure out how to get my bow out. So I got a big long stick and pulled it, and everything was just shit coated with stuff. And I smelled like gas and mud and everything else. It was terrible. But yeah, that just made me think of that. It's memorable now, and everyone laughed at me afterwards, but it was scary during the moment.
It is scary. I was in the Nicolet National Forest, and I was young. I had a tree stand on my back, the one you hate.
That needs to be hung on the wall.
I take this step on this log, full well knowing like I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna step on this log because looks like an easier path. But like the second my boot hit this log, my Mickey Mouse boots, by the way, which weigh like 10 pounds a foot, whoop, right up I go, boom, onto my back, and lo and behold, my tree stand, like I was like, oh my god, I'm like a turtle, like it got wedged, and I was like stuck. I'm holding my gun. I was like gun hunting, and I was like, holy shit, I'm stuck here. So I just took a moment and laughed by myself. I'm like, well, if this were anywhere else, someone would be laughing at me because they would have seen this happen, but there's no one around. So I'd get myself off of my tree stand and then get up and then take the tree stand out and put it back on and, continue on my way. But God, the idiotic things that happen in the woods, man, that people don't really see or talk about.
Yeah. Oh, that's
a little bit more scary. That's life threatening. Mine was like a total ego, slam.
Yeah, and I think I have a lot where I twist my ankle. The term that how do I want to put this? The term that everyone uses for it is little bitch ankles is what they say I have. And so like I sprained my ankles back in high school playing sports, and it just give out all the time. I don't even notice it. Justin, my camera guy, when he follows me around, he said it looks like, he said my knee slaps the side of the ground sometimes when it rolls, and just he comes, because I just learned to kind of roll with it. And he's like, you just keep going, like you don't even like act like it happened. And I'm like, oh, I don't even really notice it anymore. But anyways, I'll get into my most memorable hunt story. So as far as it, with that adventure in mind and like that, talking about that, I love those types of experiences. And for me, I had elk hunted for 3 years without killing anything. And I was at a camp this past weekend, and a guy, when they asked him how many years of elk hunting experience he had, he said 30 days. He goes, that sounds better than saying 3 years, but So anyways, I had elk hunted probably, I don't know, well over 30 days total in over 3 years, and didn't kill an elk. And this was the first hunt I was ever going to have filmed. I went to Idaho, and first time meeting Justin, and he's like, all right, I picked the spot out on the map, and I was like, how, it looked good, but so have some of my other spots I thought looked good. I'm an inexperienced elk hunter, and the first morning of the hunt, or the first afternoon of the hunt, we walked in and got up to the spot, and I heard a bugle coming from the area I had marked, and I was like, oh, no way, like that is so cool. Like that's basically where I had a spot marked. I heard a bugle. So in the morning we're going to come back in there, and the hike was from where my truck was to get up there where we were camped at was 2,500 feet elevation gain. And so it was, and I was like, I want to be up at this meadow before first light. And I'm like, well, we're going to test out Justin right off the bat here, and myself, as far as getting up there. And we hiked up and through this avalanche chute, and it was terrible hiking. Justin was awesome right there, never complained, nothing. As soon as we get there, it just starts breaking light, and you could see the sunrise coming up over the mountains. I'm like, man, this feels good to be back out west. And next thing you know, we see a tan body coming across this meadow, and it was this just incredible bull. I mean, it was a big herd bull, and he went by us at like 110 yards. There's nothing we could do. He was just out of range, and he went to bed right where I heard that bugle come from the night before. And so I'm like, all right, let's go over on the other side, in case any more elk come through, so we could shoot to that spot that he walked. But we'll wait until the thermals are kind of settled, and I'll try to get into his bedding area and try to call him and, basically piss him off to get him up out of bed and hunt him. Well, we moved over to this spot, and like I said, so I had the spot marked on Onyx, and it was I sent it to my hunting partners back in March as a joke, and I wrote 100% bull down, and I was just being cocky to them, just laughing, like, because obviously it didn't work any of the years prior. And all of a sudden, up on the saddle, I saw some elk coming up over, and they're heading down to the meadow. I'm like, no way, So we hurried up, and I ran down to the edge of it there, and here come some cows out across the meadow, and then a spike bull and a satellite bull, so a nice 5x5 that was coming out behind them. And so they get out and they move in front of us, and I hit my rangefinder, and it was 60 yards. And so I dialed in I'm shooting a spot hog. It's a double pin movable slider sight, and I set it to 60, and it was perfect in the wide open, everything you could ask for. And all of a sudden, I feel the wind hit me in the back of my neck, and the cow whirls around and takes off, and all the elk go back into the timber. And I'm just like, no, that was my one opportunity. I just screwed it up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to do, So I was sitting there, and I'm like, you'd never be able to catch them to beat them up to that saddle if they're heading back that way. They know the mountains way better than I do. And so I sat there, and they came right back out in the same spot with more cows. They were coming down, and they walked up. So they must not have got a good whiff of me, and must have just, I really don't know. And they came out, same trail again, range 60 yards to the dot. And the 5 point at this point was way behind, and the spike was up closer. And I kept ranging that spike. And Justin said afterwards, he's like, I thought you were going to shoot that spike. And I said, I was. He's like, but that bigger bull was behind. I said, I didn't care. I wanted a bull. Like that was my goal, And well, anyways, I ended up waiting for this other bull to come out, and I drew back and settled my pin. Well, when I say settled, it was just shaking back and forth. And I was just I'm just talking myself through it and trying to get through the shot process. And I released the arrow, and I hit him, but I didn't know. I heard a loud whack, and to me, the sound I heard sounded like a front shoulder on a whitetail, and I'm like, this isn't good. And then all of a sudden the bull runs out about 60 or 70 yards and turns, and I see the big blood spot right on his side, and he just wobbles and falls right over in the middle of this wide open meadow. And I just absolutely lost it at that point. Like, I was just, after all that time trying so hard to kill an elk with my bow, and just, it was basically the first morning of the hunt. We were supposed to be there for 14 days, and I was there with two of my really good buddies. One's my cousin, one's my lifelong friend, and they were hunting in a different spot. So I texted them from my inReach and was like, hey, bull down, and this is where I'm at. And they're like, all right, we'll be right there to help, not knowing they were in a completely different drainage. And they came up, and another guy that we met there, where we were camped at, from Ohio, John, they all came up to help out. And that was the coolest part, to have all of them there, everybody there to help out and pack out the bull, carried it all down and one load down to the truck. And it was all downhill, but it was really tough on your knees having that weight on there and everything. But like, being able to do it with those guys and us just beating on each other, joking about, our fitness levels and everything else as we were struggling. The coolest part of that for me was, one, that just the long journey that it took to get to that point. And then two, having, my lifelong friends and stuff right there with me to be able to help out with it was just awesome. Like, I couldn't have wrote that script any better. And Justin caught it all on film, and that just, that memory will always be there. And just, that's brand new place, never been to Idaho, nothing. And that was an adventure of a lifetime for me.
It's a cool story, man.
Yeah, it was a little long-winded, but
no, it's not. That's good. No, you got the details in there, that just the right ones. Having the people that you care about with you is, bar none, one of the best things ever, and the willingness for them to help. Going downhill sucks, by the way, contrary to popular belief. I climbed down a volcano in Nicaragua, and that was fucking terrible. And I didn't have an elk on my back, so like, I'll just say that. Yeah, and the other thing was, like, when we got, so that was the first time I'd done a Western hunt out of a base camp at the truck, where normally I'd backpacked in and set up camp. And I like both of them. They all have their own, there's, you can argue there's more adventure when you backpack in because you're in a remote place, but having that camaraderie of going back, and we'd have a fire every night and eat and laugh and tell stories and be able to all that day or whatever. Yeah. And we stayed out there the rest of the trip, to help the other guys hunting and everything. And John killed a really big bull, and Michael and Mason had opportunities, just they're at full draw and never worked out. But that camp aspect was one of the coolest parts of that trip. And I said, I want to do more of that style of, we have hunting camps in Pennsylvania, and being able to kind of take that atmosphere out west was cool. That's awesome. Yeah, when I did the Boundary Waters, we didn't do base camp style. We like packed up camp every day or so and canoed and portaged to different camps every day or two. I would almost rather do a base camp where we're like, we're setting up shop here, guys, and we're gonna go out every other day or so. Greg, your audio is still good. I know your video just chopped out. Your phone probably died, but your audio is good. So I totally can like respect and relate to that type of camaraderie. That's cool. No, that's a good story. Thank you. A whole bunch. And I know we already shared kind of how people can find you, but we'll bring the plane in for a landing if you want to just rehash that real quick so folks know where to get you. I'm sure they do anyways. You're a bigger name than we are, but nonetheless, let's do our due diligence here. I don't know about that, but if you want to see that story that is told there, it's over on my YouTube channel. The film is called Synergy, and Justin is very good at making me look a lot better than I am on camera. He's very, very, very talented. And so that's my YouTube is just Beau Martonik, Instagram at Beau.Martonik, at East Meets West Hunt. And then really anything else that you can find is eastmeetswesthunt.com. Cool. Fantastic. Hey, for those that tuned in live, thanks for listening. I know we got a few folks still hanging out here with us. No calls, no videos pop-ins. Unfortunately, this is just a time of year. It's nice out now. It's like 70 degrees here where we're at, which is we're gonna have snow next week apparently. So I know folks are out fertilizing their lawns or doing whatever they're doing, but thanks for tuning in. We're gonna end a live broadcast, and this will be in podcast land tonight. As you all know, we produce the same evening that we record. So I want to thank Beau for being on the show. Beau will hang out with you for a few minutes afterwards, and everybody, thanks for jumping in with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.